Now, as you've probably heard here on Arise News, in Zimbabwe, the cabinet has approved draft legislation to extend the term of the president from 5 to 7 years. Parliament would also be able to choose the president rather than the electorate. The changes, which still need to be debated in Parliament, would allow President Emerson Mnangagwa to remain in power until 2030. Opposition politicians have condemned the move by the ruling ZANU-PF party to extend the president's term in office. Well, for his reaction and assessment, I'm joined now in the studio by Professor Tunde Esan, Professor of International Relations, with a focus on the history of African elections and democratic developments on the continent. Good to see you, Prof.
It's good to see you, Charles.
Thank you very much indeed for coming in. What's your reaction to these changes? I mean, it sounds like the government is trying to completely rewrite the Constitution without going through a referendum.
When I read it on Tuesday, when this happened, and I was reading it and looking at it, I wasn't a little bit surprised, but not too surprised about what is happening in Zimbabwe. If you look at the history of Zimbabwe, Mugabe got there in 1980. A military coup removed him in 2017. This is a man who was on the trenches, in the trenches for years, liberation leader and struggling for independence of Zimbabwe. So, but of course, I haven't been removed by a military, coup in 2017, and Mnangagwa became president, particularly in 2018 when he was elected officially as the president. You would think that, there will be changes, not only in attitude, but in the political culture of the leaders in Zimbabwe. But this is coming, and this is where we are.
Well, it's interesting that the current constitution was enacted 13 years ago. And one of the reasons it was enacted was because Robert Mugabe had been in power for more than 20 years. And so the people of Zimbabwe overwhelmingly voted to introduce term limits of 2 5-year terms. And the idea at the time was that the sitting president would not be able to benefit from that. So I imagine there must be outrage at what can only be seen as an attempt to undermine that constitution.
The opposition have been they have been talking since for the past few days about what is happening in Zimbabwe. The coalition have been talking, and a lot of people are surprised. And of course, there are still fundamentals when it comes to this issue. Number one is a cabinet decision, cabinet resolution that this should be adopted and they should be gazetted and sent to the National Assembly for ratification and enactment, as a law. So there are a lot of issues involved, and let's see how it goes. But, it is not going to be easy for him, for an 83-year-old man who has spent, who is supposed to finish his term in 2018, now to be extended to 2028, to be extended to 2030. That is that might not be. It might not be easy, but let's see how it goes.
But how potentially, I know it hasn't run its course yet, but how potentially destabilizing is this likely to be for Zimbabwe? I wonder what your assessment is about what that means for the rule of law and democracy in Zimbabwe, because this is obviously a very different process to a referendum where people will go out and vote, which is what constitutionally is required to change the constitution.
There are two fundamentals and two interesting angles to it. And in the draft resolution, they said there will be no direct vote. You understand that the electorate might not be voting, will not be voting for the president directly, and that the National Assembly, the legislature, will now elect the president, you understand? And that is strange. That you need a referendum, you understand, to change the constitution to do that. Secondly, is it really, how will it be possible for Mnangagwa to benefit from it, particularly when he's sworn to the constitution to spend 5 years and 2 terms. So these are still the fundamental issues that has been looked at.
So what happens now? Will this move be legally binding? Are we likely to see legal challenges at the Constitutional Court as opponents attempt to strike down this effort by the government? I understand, in fact, that a challenge has already been filed.
Like you said, before Robert Mugabe, the late President Robert Mugabe, before they came off with the new constitution to make sure that there are term limits, there are protests, all over Zimbabwe, and there are strong opposition voices all over the place. So I suspect and I think this is going to happen, So it may not be easy for him to do that, So
well, as I said, I understand that a challenge has already been filed.
There will be challenges. And of course, it is not legally, tenable to say, look, you can extend your term without a referendum or a constitutional amendment. That is not. You don't need to be a lawyer to know that.
Right.
You understand? You don't need to be a lawyer to know.
Well, that depends on how much, let me use a civilized term, cooperation there is between the judiciary and the executive.
Cooperation. I don't know about cooperation there, but there are fundamental issues that might affect, some of the, some aspect of the constitutions, Zimbabwe constitution, and these are you cannot take it for granted, particularly knowing where Zimbabwe is coming from. Highly enlightened society, you understand, the former Rhodesia, and with a very, very strong and highly educated middle class. So you can't take it for granted. Let's see how it goes. But one thing is sure, it is not savory. It is not interesting. And to a lot of us who are observers of African politics, we're going back to Uganda, or if possible, we might be going back to the scenario we're having in Cameroon. And that is not interesting at all.
Indeed. And just on the back of what you were saying there, one recalls that period when the military ousted Robert Mugabe and the sense of hope and enthusiasm that was on the streets. I mean, has that all been dashed under Emerson Mnangagwa? Are people seeing more of the same under the current president?
No, you can't say it's been dashed because he still, he won the election in 2018, finished the 5-year term in 2023, won, a re-election in 2023, and now here we are. So it is now in the next few days. Let's see how it goes. The strength of the opposition will be known and to be seen, and how far they can go, particularly when it comes to legal aspect and justification for some of the fundamentals, that need to be followed and to be observed. Then that's when we'll know. But I think the Zimbabweans that we know are not necessarily indolent, and they are very, very vibrant set of people.
Well, let me sound notice to you that we will be coming back to talk with you again as this story continues to evolve. But I want to thank you very much indeed. We always appreciate your presence here. Professor Tunde Esan is a professor of international relations with a focus on the history of African elections and democratic developments on the continent. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Charles.